It's been a bit since the last time we talked about Vietnam. Actually, I think the last time we talked about Vietnam, our glorious golden women warriors had just made their first World Cup. How did they do? Sure, did we lose every game? Yes. Was that to be expected? Yes. But at least we didn't lose to the US 13-0. I'm happy with that. Oh, and here's a picture of me at a bar in New York. I'm not really sure how many drinks I'm off at this point, but just know that I was the only person supporting Vietnam in that bar. But today we talk about the men's team, and the last time we talked about the men's team was actually almost a year ago, and a lot of things have changed. So we're gonna start this story in late January. After Vietnam lost the AFF Championship final to Thailand, again, Papa Park Hong-sao stepped down as head coach. Park took the national team to heights never seen before and gave us a fighting mentality that never feared any opponents, and whoever would be taking charge of this role would have some massive shoes to fill in, of course. And the man to take that challenge was U19's coach, Philippe Troussier. In the past, Troussier managed many national teams in Africa and also won the Asian Cup with Japan in 2000. Vietnam looked at his appointment as the next step. He would be the one to basically build upon the foundations of Papa Park. So fast forward to July, the 2026 World Cup qualifiers second round draw. We drew into a group with Iraq and the Philippines. Oh yeah, and Indonesia. But we couldn't overlook any of our opponents, especially with a new head coach that was teaching the Viets a different way of playing very foreign to what they were used to. Instead of Park's defensive approach, now Troussier was trying to get the Vietnamese team to control the ball more, control the game more. The new head coach won his first few games with Vietnam, but the performances were quite underwhelming. That's understandable though, you have to build chemistry with a new play style. But what wasn't helping is the fact that player agents are the root cause of the downfall of our civilization. About 2 years ago, Nguyen Quang Hai was our most talented player, easily one of the best players in Southeast Asia. The Vietnamese league is pretty low quality, so a lot of people believe Quang Hai needed a better challenge. So when the forward finally announced he wouldn't be returning to Hanoi FC in April 2022, many like myself believed the next destination that just made sense would be something like the Thai League, the Australian League, or even the Japanese league. These all felt like good steps forward for Quang Hai, and he'd also still get a really good challenge out of it. But that's not what happened at all. Instead, Quang Hai's agents worked up an offer to bring him to a second division French club. Sure, he may have made history becoming the first Vietnamese player to score in Europe, but it was all downhill from there. Listen, okay? Simple question. No threats. We're civilized people here. Who was it this time? Anyways, after a wasted season, Quang Hai returned to the V-League last summer. Hopefully this season he can return to his old form, because in the past 2 years, he hasn't scored once for the national team. Going back to the Vietnamese national team though, with both the second round of qualifiers and the Asian Cup on the horizon, Vietnam decided to organize friendlies with tougher opponents in October to prepare. Although they lost all 3 friendlies, which included a 6-0 embarrassment at the hands of South Korea, it was a good way to learn and gain valuable experience. Especially with Troussier not only changing the style, but also trusting in youngsters to mix in with the veteran core. Players like 2023 V-League Young Player of the Year, Nguyen Thai Song, 20-year-old attacking midfielder Quat Van Kang, who starred for Vietnam's U23s in last year's U23 Asian Cup. So far he's only made cameos for the senior team, but he has already scored 1 goal before, and I can assure you this guy is going to be special for the future. Oh, and remember fullback Van Tuan Thai? Well, the 22-year-old has been getting a lot more chances under Philippe Troussier. In November, Troussier announced his squad for Vietnam's first 2 qualifiers, and even before the campaign would begin, the national team would already suffer some setbacks. If not scoring in the last 2 years wasn't bad enough, Nguyen Quang Hai was left out of the squad due to injury. But even worse was that numerous defenders would also be out due to injury. Do Doi Mike, Ho Tan Thai as well. The biggest loss though was Doan Van Hao. He's the best crosser of the ball on our team, and even worse, his injury is gonna have him miss the Asian Cup in January. But hey, he got married last month, so congrats to him. It gets worse though, because arguably our best player at the current moment, Nguyen Hoang Duc, was just coming back from a minor injury at the end of October, so there was no telling if he'd play or not. Spoiler alert, he didn't play a single minute. Vietnam's first qualifier away was against the Philippines, and I didn't really see too much of this game, to be honest. After the first goal, I fell asleep because I had just landed in Bangkok from Tokyo about 2 hours before, went through immigration, all that kind of stuff, had an issue with the taxi, yada yada yada. It was my first experience with Grab. Yeah, I was exhausted. But that first Vietnamese goal was easily one of the worst goals I have ever seen be scored on a football pitch. But hey, they all count. Going back to watch the highlights of the game though, Vietnam were really sloppy on the ball and got pretty lucky not to concede a goal. Nonetheless, 19-year-old Nguyen Dinh Bach would score Vietnam's second goal in stoppage time, and we would just scratch by with 3 points. It was not pretty by all means, but a win in Trussier's first qualifier, promising stuff, you know? You gotta start somewhere. And you guys already know how much I love Phan Thuan Thai, and he had a great performance that night. Numerous accurate crosses, solid defending all around. He's, I believe, only 22 years old. You know, maybe we won't have to worry about injury-prone Van Gaal. So on to the next qualifier, which would be against our most difficult opponent, Iraq. This game would be played at home in Hanoi, and I actually went to this one. So join me, fellas, as we take a little 6-day trip to Vietnam. So from the BKK in Bangkok, I flew all the way to Noi Bai International in Hanoi, Vietnam. This was my first time ever going to Vietnam, the country my mother was from. It genuinely felt so surreal because I always felt like this was something I'd do years later. But hey, expect the unexpected, I guess. One thing I will say is don't come to this country with 2 hours of sleep like I did. In my defense or excuse, you can deem it whatever, I had like a very bad cough that like kept me up at night, and this one kept me up until 2. My flight was at 7. Anyways, I was pretty aware of the scamming culture in the taxi industry, but I severely underestimated the hustle of some of these dudes. Let me set this up for you, right? In Southeast Asia, there's an app called Grab. It's basically like Uber. It's really janky, but it does the job. As I was waiting for my Grab, some dude saw it on my screen and immediately came up to me.
Hello, everybody! How are you? Fine, thank you.
Oh my god!
Now, I made the mistake of acknowledging this guy because he immediately canceled my ride after I asked him, hey, are you my driver? Hey Maxwell, look down at your phone, it still says your driver's 10 minutes away. Anyways, after he presses the cancel button, immediately he dials up one of his own drivers, another guy shows up out of the fucking blue, and he tells me to follow him. Now I try to step away and tell him, listen, like, I'm not really feeling this, but the guy organizing was just like, nah, we already booked the ride. And you know, I probably could have ignored it, but just remember, I wasn't really all there. So realizing I f***ed up, I asked if the service would be the same price as my Grab. He said yes, and he wasn't lying. But there was a 200,000 Vietnamese dong charge for the tolls. That sneaky little bastard. I will say though, I got off pretty lightly, considering the many other horror stories I've heard in the past. You know, at least I got to my destination. Other people just get thrown into like the middle of nowhere. Also, the driver, you know, sure he, scammed me, but he was a cool dude. We talked through like Google Translate. I even told him I was a YouTuber, and a few hours after he scammed me, he commented on my latest video at the time. So, you know, I'm not even mad anymore. Anyways, there was actually another adventure before the Vietnam-Iraq game that I had in my mind. You see, my mom was born in the city of Haiphong, which is almost 2 hours away from Hanoi. And I wanted to go and see the old building that used to be her house about 30 plus years ago. Now, one thing about Haiphong, by the way, is it used to be like the gangster capital of Vietnam. In fact, one of the most notorious Vietnamese gangsters was born in Haiphong. Now, how exactly do you get to Haiphong? You could take the train, but that would take eons. So, your best option is the bus. So from my hotel, I went to Gia Lam bus station, waited about an hour, and off I went to my mom's hometown. The nice thing about the route is that there's a super fast and easy expressway that'll take you straight to Haiphong in like 2 hours. Unless your bus breaks down. No worries though, a replacement bus came to pick us up, and about an hour later I finally arrived in Haiphong. After getting off the bus, I wasn't exactly where I needed to be in the city, so I rode on someone's bike for the first time on the trip, and I can't lie, at first I was a little scared.
What's up, Choppy?
But after that fear eventually went away, I just felt alive. More alive than I had ever felt before. As a cool wind blew through my ears, I cruised between all these different shops and food carts. Trees of the most vibrant greens had sun shining down on them as life on the streets flowed like a river. And here I was in the river's flow, just admiring the gorgeous scenes around me. It's times like these that remind us just how wonderful it is to be alive. At last though, I arrived at where I needed to be, Tam Bach, and there it was. my mom's old house. Now it was a cafe that sold coffee, boba, and those 10 yen pancakes. No longer did it have any of the features that made it home for my mom. But that didn't really matter to me because for as long as I can remember, my mom has told me stories about Vietnam and her hometown, the many tales of daily life and struggle throughout her entire childhood. However, because of how far this place was and how old my mom's memories were, I could only really see this city, this country, as a folktale in my mind. But here I was now, in the middle of this busy sidewalk parallel to a beautiful lake, seeing my roots, seeing where my mom came from. I don't really know how, but while looking at what surrounded my mom's old house, even though she was thousands of miles away in North Carolina, it felt like she was standing right next to me, taking it all in as well. I had to return back to Hanoi pretty soon after, pretty unfortunate because I couldn't really get to experience much of Haiphong, but I know I'll be back. I will say though, if you plan to go to Vietnam, go to Tam Bac and Haiphong. It's a super cool area to walk around. Also, just in general, go to Haiphong because it's got some of the best food in the country. So welcome back to Hanoi. Throughout the late morning, early afternoon, I had a friend drive me around practically the entire city. I saw the sights, walked around different areas, and of course I had to check out Hanoi FC Stadium and a football shop nearby. Of course though, you can't forget about the food either. Every meal was incredible that day, especially this one place that my friend's family owns. So if you're ever in Hanoi, or currently live there, definitely make a trip here. So it's about a few hours before the Vietnam game, and so I'm just kind of resting here in my hotel for a little bit, recharging, so I can be real passionate once we get to the stadium. I'm super excited, man. I will say, our opponents are Iraq. I am not really feeling too hopeful, especially in our state right now where it feels like we're kind of experimenting and not really rebuilding in a sense, but just readjusting things. If I had to make a prediction, honestly, I would say that we lose this game. But if we can score early and I can have at least a little bit of euphoria from that, that's fine by me, you know. I think the best result we can get out of this is a draw. It's fucking game time, baby. It's game time. We're winning this shit. I don't care what I just said about an hour ago. We are winning this shit.
What's up, Choppy?
So here we were. After an hour in traffic, we finally arrived at Meeting Stadium. Oh my god, we're here. This is fucking wild. With Vietnamese nationalism coursing through my veins, the whistle blew for kickoff and it was time for our glorious Golden Warriors to make us proud. However, Iraq did not hesitate to assert their dominance early on.
Lock that. Oh my god. Ah, yeah. Come on. No, come on. Gotta cover it. Hey! Get the f out of here.
But despite having numerous chances to go up 1-0, the Iraqis had a worse conversion rate than the Vietnamese. You know what? I've already made this joke before. Let's see. Hold on, give me a second. There's a multitude of opportunities for Iraq to take hold of the game, but unfortunately, the Iraqi attack decided to embrace its inner Detroit Piston.
No, that's a free header. Holy f***, dude. Someone's gotta mark him.
And then it was halftime. Now, it was expected for Iraq to dominate the game. You know, I don't really have a problem with that. I was expecting that. But we couldn't even string up a single chance. Credit to Trussier, because the players have definitely improved in build-up play and breaking through the lines. But the issue is, and this has been a problem for years, once we reach the final third of the pitch, we just hit a wall. Hwang Duk and Hung Sung have helped mitigate that issue, but both were not available that night. Tai Son, who did start, is a versatile player, but he's still got a long way to go. This all said, Vietnam did improve in defending Iraq's efforts as the half went on. And going into the second half, it felt like Vietnam was truly starting to grow into this game. No longer was Iraq's attack able to create any clear-cut chances as the Viet defense stifled every attempt. As for the Vietnamese attack, worry not, my friends. As a wise man once said, F it, we ball. Vietnam earns a rare corner in the 83rd minute, and the crowd is really starting to get into this game. But now, here comes Iraq taking advantage of a defensive error. However, Nguyen Thanh Binh doesn't take too kindly to strangers in his box.
Six minutes of stoppage time. Plenty of time.
Plenty of time to create something of substance indeed, but also plenty of time for Iraq to snatch victory.
Oh, no. Oh.
Now, with just one more minute of stoppage time, Vietnam could come up with at least one more attack. And even though this team throughout the entire game had put together just one shot, somehow there was still hope. Win this for us, boys.
No! No way.
Cái tờ kia đánh đầu vào. Chắc đầu mình mới về rồi.
You're f***ing kidding me, man. In the last minutes of the game.
Are you f***ing serious, man?
I return back home now. Pain, suffering, if you will. Agony, if you're to be inclined. First game at Meeting Stadium, and it just had to be a last-minute winner. Nice little food tour after heartbreaking loss. This shit was
looks so good. Round 2, baby. This looks magnificent. I'm so hungry still. What the hell?
That's the third time that we've conceded a last-minute goal to Iraq, like in stoppage time. I'm not even kidding. I don't get it. I really don't get it. It's all right though, because this is cope, but also at the same time, this is pretty true. We played really, really well with the players that we had. It just felt like every player was really putting their part on the pitch. At the end of the day, if we're seeing that, then that's good for me, you know? Especially against an opponent like Iraq, that's great. First half was promising, you know? It was impressive considering, like I said, the players that we didn't have. While Iraq definitely should have put some chances in the net in that first half, you know, I would say still, that was pretty decent. It come the second half, and we just found like an extra gear. Our attack still right? But it felt like there was at least a tiny punch here or there. Like we're jabbing a little bit more towards the Iraq goal. Not to mention, Iraq didn't have as many chances in the second half than they had the first half. I would say our defense did really well. Those last 10 minutes were so good. So good. It just felt like we were going to score. There was that one moment where a player slipped and it felt like, oh, that sucks, but we'll get right back at it. And we did. And we did multiple times. And then once it went to stoppage time, we let Iraq right back into the game, right at the death, and they punish us. It's just, whatever, man. I'm done watching football. You know, thank God I saw the Nuggets win a championship. Otherwise, that night could have been worse. Also, special thanks to the Turf Map team for getting me tickets to this game. But yeah, Vietnam, what a country. Honestly, I spent 6 days in this nation, exploring numerous cities, and it was truly just an enriching experience. The food and drinks gave me a warm feeling in my heart, and that's all thanks to the thoughtfulness Vietnamese people have in finding the freshest ingredients. And along the way, I got to meet some very friendly locals, had some great laughs, listened to their stories, all while biking around in the chaotic streets. I had never been to this country before this trip. I don't even speak the language. And yet, the whole time I was there, it just felt like a second home. You know, it was nearly 3 years ago that I felt pretty disconnected from my Vietnamese roots, and funnily enough, I came to that realization after talking to a Tinder match. So throughout 2021, I really started to find my roots again. I started with music. A lot of Amy. And then I got way more into the national team. September came around, and in my first big step in learning more about my roots, I made that Vietnam video essay. And I never thought that that video essay would have me making content, on the regular at least, about Vietnamese football. But I really wouldn't want it any other way. I'm just really proud to represent this country's football scene as really the only English-speaking content creator out there that talks about the football scene. But now, the next step is learning how to speak Vietnamese, because while Vietnam was really enjoyable, it was kind of embarrassing not being able to speak with people who saw me as one of them in a way. Also, it would have been cool to strike up conversations with locals at the game or even around the food carts, and the feeling of not being able to do that, it just kind of sucked. I miss this country already, man. 6 days was not anywhere near enough, but I know I'll be back. And when I am, I'll be able to speak the language this time. So, hopefully you liked that vlog, because the next video is going to be the Japan vlog, and that's going to be even bigger. Is it really going to be about the football? No, but it's still going to be a fun video. And listen, I know, the Germany video essay, it was supposed to come out ideally this month. That's definitely not happening. I mean, like, I went to Asia for like 6 weeks, man. Like, that was just not gonna happen. And then there's the Vietnam video that I wanted to make. This was super personal. Japan's gonna be super personal. And then we'll get to the Germany video essay. So I want to say maybe by February it comes out. I will try to get it out sooner. But this video is like an hour and 30 minutes. And I have not finished any of the editing so far. So yeah. But anyways, if this is the last video I upload before the end of the year, just want to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and once again, thank you guys so much for a fantastic year. Me personally, I'm not very satisfied with this year, but that's literally just because of my own doing. That's not like anything to do with you guys. It never is, to be fair. Thank you for allowing me to basically just create whatever I want to create, and thank you for your support on all of those types of videos. I've said this before, it's the best job in the world. But anyways, massive thank you to all our patrons, including Janos Barash, Chris Damasceno, Miliway009, Adazir Makalongcom, Aldipu, Alex Rod, Ulta, Anaya20, Kare San, Billy Jack, Daniel Ortiz, Francisco Hernandez, Hysteria, Marco Fujimoto, Miguel Munoz, Return Fire, Rory Burns, Slider Kit, Snifferx, Takuoka Fan, Tana Pemilia Celine Khan, Tamicus, Victor, A1KLCF, Chris Visconti, Dominic Griffin, Lewis, Joe Aparicio, Kyler Krebs, Lucian Von Croix, Michael Nista, Niche, Patrick Barlett, Raspberry Ale, Rowan Cookie, Sylvia Citrus, subscribe to 10 Day Tim, Unbroken Persona, and Valencia 14. If you'd like to join the Patreon, there'll be a link down below and up in the annotations. You can follow my Twitter if you want. I actually got my Twitter restored. Yay! So follow that one if you haven't already. Follow my Instagram if you like. I've posted a couple of pictures. You can like them if you want. Follow my TikTok if you want, I guess. And follow my semi-active Twitch if you want as well. But until then, I'll see you guys.